Mrs. Smith had somehow or other been informed of an affair, a connection. But I need not explain myself farther. You have probably heard the whole story long ago. I have, returned Elinor. And how you will explain away any part of your guilt in that dreadful business, I confess, is beyond my comprehension. Remember, cried Willoughby, from whom you received the account. Could it be an impartial one? I do not mean to defend myself. Her affection for me deserved better treatment. Your indifference, however, towards that unfortunate girl is no apology for your cruel neglect of her. You must have known that while you were enjoying yourself in Devonshire, she was reduced to the extremest indigence. But upon my soul, I did not know it! Well, sir, and what said Mrs. Smith? She taxed me with the offence at once, and my confusion may be guessed. She offered to forgive the past if I would marry Eliza. That could not be, and I was formally dismissed from her favour and her house. The night following this affair was spent by me in deliberating on what my future conduct should be. My affection for Marianne was all insufficient to outweigh that dread of poverty. I had reason to believe myself secure of my present wife if I chose to address her, and I persuaded myself to think that nothing else in common prudence remained for me to do. An heavy scene, however, awaited me before I could leave Devonshire. I was engaged to dine with you that very day. Some apology was therefore necessary for my breaking the engagement, but whether I should write this apology or deliver it in person was a point of long debate. "Why did you call, Mr. Willoughby?" said Elinor reproachfully. "A note would have answered every purpose." "It was necessary to my own pride. I could not bear to leave the country in a manner that might lead you or the rest of the neighbourhood to suspect any part of what had really passed between myself and Mrs. Smith, and I resolved, therefore, on calling at the cottage in my way to Honiton. The sight of your dear sister, however, was really dreadful. Her sorrow, her deep regret when I told her that I was obliged to leave Devonshire so immediately. I shall never forget it. Oh, God! What an hard-hearted rascal I was!" They were both silent for a few moments. Elinor first spoke. "Well, sir," she said, who, though pitying him, grew impatient for his departure, "and this is all?" "All? No! Have you forgot what passed in town? That infamous letter! Did she show it to you?" "Yes, I saw every note that passed." "When the first of hers reached me, my feelings were very, very painful. To know that Marianne was in town was a thunderbolt." "This is not right, Mr. Willoughby. Remember that you are married. Relate only what in your conscience you think necessary for me to hear." "Marianne's note, by assuring me that I was still as dear to her as in the former days, made me know myself better. I felt she was infinitely dearer to me than any other woman in the world, and that I was using her infamously. But everything was then just settled between Miss Grey and me. To retreat was impossible. All I had to do was to avoid you both. I sent no answer to Marianne, and for some time I was even determined not to call in Berkeley Street. But at last I watched you all safely out of the house one morning, and left my name." "Watched us out of the house?" "Even so. You would be surprised to hear how often I watched you, how often I was on the point of falling in with you. I have entered many a shop to avoid your sight as the carriage drove by. I blundered on Sir John, I believe, the first morning of his coming, and the day after I had called at Mrs. Jennings. He asked me to a party, a dance at his house in the evening. The next morning brought another short note from Marianne, still affectionate, open, artless, confiding. I could not answer it. I tried, but could not frame a sentence. But I thought of her, I believe, every moment of the day. If you can pity me, Miss Dashwood, pity my situation as it was then. With my head and heart so full of your sister, I was forced to play the happy lover to another woman. Well, at last, as I need not tell you. You were forced on me. And what an evening of agony it was. Marianne, beautiful as an angel on one side, calling me Willoughby in such a tone. Oh, God! Holding out her hand to me, asking for an explanation with those bewitching eyes. I ran away from you all as soon as I could. But not before I had seen Marianne's sweet face as white as death. That was the last look I ever had of her.